Hello, everyone. As many of your first papers are coming due, your first essays, etc., for many of my students are coming due. And anyway, even if you're in my core class, you'll still have other writings due through the semester. I wanted to give you all a chance, my students, to see some issues I've seen with our writing, and these are things that we can fix. So let's take a look at some of these, and I'll just bring up a document which I've shared with all of you, and it's called here the writing issues and problems. So the first issue that I've seen is an overuse of adjectives, adverbs, and modifiers. Now, an adjective, as we know, is something that explains what a noun is. So the big school, right? Adverbs are a way that we use to, it's a word that we use to describe a verb. So he ran quickly, right? And modifiers is things like very much, a lot of, which are used to explain the frequency of something. Okay, so I discuss this as the reason why we're in university, or one of the big reasons we're in university, especially we're doing work with rhetoric, is because we want to ask the big whys. We want to know, we want to ask them, and we want to answer them. Well, when we write, and this is good writing in English for really any form of writing. It could be journalism, it could be academic writing, it could be literature. It doesn't matter. Good writing in English is going to limit the amount of adjectives, adverbs, and modifiers. Not to say you'll never use like the words a lot of, or carefully, or intelligent. All of these words you'll use. However, I suggest to you what we want to do is we want to show, we want to go deep, we want to answer the big whys. If we say, for example, the black phone is used by everyone, well, that doesn't tell us anything. Why, however, is the color black used in cell phones all the time, right? You can ask a bigger question. You can begin to develop a more academic study. You can find bigger answers to bigger questions, and instead of using easy adjectives, easy adverbs, and easy modifiers. So I'll give you another example of this, something else that I've seen recently. The use of logos, lots of logos, was helpful for. First off, there's two issues I have. Lots of is a modifier, and actually lots of is not formal English. Okay, I mean, lots of is a very informal way that we would be using English. So first off, you would probably say, if you wanted to use it in a more formal manner, you could say the use of logos was helpful for the writers of the article. Lots of doesn't add anything to the writing. And the same way, even the sentence in itself, when you're using this word was helpful for the writers of the article, I would say this is possible, but then I really want to know why. Why was it helpful? What did it do? And so I would recommend that you read your sentences again after you write them, and think to yourself, especially about the use of modifiers, adjectives, and adverbs, and think about, well, are these things useful? If you have them in. If they're not useful, I would say take them out. Lots of, for example, first off, it's too informal, and second, it doesn't, by removing it, it doesn't change the meaning of the sentence. So definitely you want to strike that. If you're going to use an adjective like helpful, That's fine, but then you would need to give us a why in the sentence. You would need to explain yourself. Yeah, and then there's another thing here, another example. The argument in this essay is good, and it has all the parts that makes it a good argument and a perfect article. Okay, a couple of things here. We're not entirely clear about the verb here. You're using a clause, which isn't, the student was using a clause here, which wasn't entirely clear. But beyond all of that, makes it a good argument and a perfect article. Well, this is a lot of filler. You're not saying anything when you use these kinds of adjectives. Remember, what we really want to do is focus on meaning. Focus on telling your audience, whether or not it's your instructor, your professor, etc., or inversely, eventually, the goal is that you would have a bigger audience than just your instructor. If you, for example, were doing any kind of serious academic writing in the future, or doing any kind of journalism, or doing any kind of your own personal prose writing, you'll have a bigger audience. So you really need to think about connecting with your audience. And when you're connecting with your audience, you don't want to give your audience filler words. Empty, meaningless adjectives, adverbs, and modifiers don't help your argument, don't help your writing, don't help what you're trying to explain to your audience. It actually hurts it quite a bit. So so those are some issues. Let's move on back into the text here, and we'll look at the passive voice and the active voice. Okay, well, this for me is one of the most important things in English. In English, we write here, active voice rocks in English. We want active voice. Now, why does active voice rock? Why is active voice wonderful? Okay, well, let's look at these two sentences. This is actually one of these sentences I read on CNN this last summer 2014. First sentence, Gaza has been hit by rockets. Okay. Israeli Defense Forces hit Gaza with rockets. Which is the better sentence? Which is the sentence that gives us more complete information about what was happening? And I think that if you ask yourself this question, it should be relatively obvious to us that the second sentence, Israeli Defense Forces hit Gaza with rockets, is better. Why? Because we have a clearly defined subject that is doing its action. We have a tight sentence, a focused sentence. We know the subject, we know the verb, and we know, well, not every sentence is going to have a clear object. In this case, we do have an object-like structure here, hit Gaza, right? So we have Gaza hit directly. So we have a direct object there. My argument is that it isn't just good writing. Actually, it's very, very important to use as much as possible the active in English because it's ethical. It becomes an ethical issue. Let's look again at the sentence example. If you look at this sentence example with me, you're going to see that this is such a politically charged issue. It's such a politically charged issue, you know, not just in the Middle East, but internationally, right? All over the world. The issue of what's happening in Gaza, the issue of Israeli Defense Forces attacking Gaza, shooting the area up, and really, you know, killing, maiming people, has a direct international connection and a very, very real local connection. People are dying on the streets. Okay. Now, another argument can be made that maybe we don't want to say exactly all of this information because it is politically sensitive. Well, I am a person who likes transparency and honesty in my writing. I like transparency and honesty in my storytelling. And ultimately, that is what you're doing when you're writing good. When you're using English well, you are using specifically, or you have the need to use the active as much as you can, simply because we see that there's an actual ethical connection to the use of active voice in English. Let's move on. Okay, I see here there's problems with overwriting, writing too much, trying to run before you can walk, and I'm telling you to walk first, especially to my first year students who. Many of you have wonderful ideas, fantastic ideas, and ideas that I really want you to support. I want to support you in the creation of. However, clearly stating those ideas is key. So in this paper, we have someone here with our example. In this paper, I'll write about the ethos, logos, and pathos in the chapter Cracking the Superhero's Moral Code, and how the writers use ethos, pathos, and logos to show their point of view and describe why superheroes are better than war heroes, even though war heroes are more utilitarian than superheroes. Okay, first off, you can break this down. You can break this sentence into at least, I would say, 2, if not perhaps 3 different parts. Think about, again, clear subject, a clear object, and a clear verb. Now, sometimes, as I said, you won't always have a clear object, but give me a tight, even a shorter sentence right now. If I can see that you're walking, then the longer sentences will happen in the future. But I need to see that you're walking before you're running. So yeah, let's go back now. And then we have another example here. The writer tried to convince us using logos in the part which refers to that Superman is not willing. I'll highlight it here. The writer tried to convince us using logos in the part which refers to that Superman is not willing to kill one person in order to save billions of people. And here the writer is trying to be reasonable. And since Superman cannot violate his code, that's why he cannot kill, even if he is going to save millions by killing this one. And we can see here that the writer is trying to persuade us by logical reasons. Wow. Okay. So we have, I think, about 5 different ideas explained. There's a couple of little things, and why don't I'm going to actually show this in suggestions, so this will come up. The writer tried to convince us using logos in the part which refers to that Superman. Okay, so right here, this section here is really not clear. I'd even say what you could do is you could even perhaps cut out this beginning section, which doesn't tell us much. Perhaps put something as simple as logos, or the writer, tried to convince, the writer employed, how about this? The writer employed logos in the section where Superman, and let's remember with proper nouns, they should almost always be capitalized. So Superman's a name, right? So we want to keep that capitalized. So we take out this section all here, just erase that out. The writer employed logos in the section where Superman is, okay. Is not willing to kill one person in order to save billions of people. Now, great, wonderful idea, well expressed, and that's enough. Right here is one good sentence. Look at it. And we have it clearly stated. We have a what? We have here the writer, the subject, employed, verb. And look, it's used in an active way. The writer employed logos in the section where Superman is not willing to kill one person in order to save billions of people. Enough. You've given me a tight, strong idea. Now that's what we need. And then, you can go, and I won't go through all of this, but you understand that like this, you can begin to break this section up, and it can become much more understood for the readers by breaking up this complex thing in which you, the reader, in which the writer is trying to overwrite, is trying to run before he or she can walk. So make sure that you can walk well. And this is walking. And this is very effective. This will get you you know, if you continue to have sentences that are made like this, with tight, strong sentences, you know, you're going to do very well in my class. That right there. This sentence is a sentence that is understood. You're not overwriting it. It is clear, and you'll get a good grade. So yeah, as I said, how can we fix overwriting? Walk, not run. Clear subject, verb, object. If an object is necessary here, sorry, maybe. As we know, so there's some intransitive verbs where you don't use an object. Reading and recording yourself to fix this. This is really good, and I've seen this helping personally my writing. I'm a storyteller and a writer myself. After I write something, I suggest to you all, you know, that you really think about you know, taking a recorder. You know, something as simple as this phone here, right? You know, most of us now have cell phones that actually have a recorder built in. You record yourself speaking. You know, you say it again. After you read a sentence, you say it, you read it again. And then you play it back to yourself. And you think, okay, wait, did that make sense? And if it didn't make that much sense, right there, at that point, you can say, okay, I got to look at that sentence again. I got to change it. Before you give it again to me, you know, what I'm saying is you guys should be doing this in your first draft, definitely your second draft in your essays. So you listen to it, you think about it, you can do a second write on this. You can write it a second time. And then at that point, you begin to understand, okay, well, so that's what I need to do. That's the next connection. Okay, I need to make this change, this change, this change. I need to not make it overwritten. I need to walk before I run, and I need to make a sharp, tight sentence. Think of it a lot like a spear point. Okay, a point that is tight and sharp that does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to get the information forward, extend the information. Let me know what you're trying to do. Okay, let's go back. So, all right. Okay, so what's another thing that I've seen? Filler, good old filler. Now, filler really does play into the issue that we talked about up here, which is the overuse of adjectives, adverbs, and modifiers. This is all about filler. And the way you fix filler is you answer me the big whys. If I don't see someone answering me the big whys, but they're just giving me, you know, you're just pushing and pushing and pushing words together, sentences together, probably to try to make your article longer. I notice this. All of us notice this. We instructors, we know when you guys are trying to too long, when you're trying to add this extra information. We know. We got it, guys. We've read enough of your articles and your writings. We know when you've thought about it, when you're answering the big whys, when you're really stretching your mind. Then we're like, okay, this student is trying. Maybe there's mistakes. Okay, sure. We can work with that. But when a student is just filling stuff in to make it longer, it's pretty obvious. So let's take a look. So not only, here's an example of filler. Not only was it used abundantly by the authors, it came perfectly in place, leaving the reader with no other option to be convinced, or at the very least impressed with how logic was definitely implemented behind every single word. In the coming few lines, we will to get deeper in the article, discussing, and analyzing how this article is a logos masterpiece. Okay. First off, a lot of problems with this piece here. First off, we have definitely here. All right. My patented red here. Definitely tells me nothing. Abundantly, perfectly. Well, nothing's really perfect. Nothing. Well, and rarely are things masterpieces. And even, guys, look. The thing with a masterpiece is, now, granted, that's a noun, but it's really filler. It's just, it kind of comes across a little bit like junk. I mean, first off, the reason why you guys are in academia, the reason why you guys are sitting in this classroom, well, actually, I don't know the reason. You know the reason why you're in school, okay? But the wonderful thing about academia, about university, is if you don't want to be here, you don't got to be here. We don't got to make you guys do anything. This isn't high school. This isn't lower level school. You're all adults. So if you don't want to be here, you're not here. But the reason why academia was established, again, was, well, one of the big reasons is to answer the big questions. Okay, think about the big questions now. All right, well, calling something a masterpiece, even if it is a masterpiece, let's take something written by by Beethoven, right? Or written by the Beatles, which is another rock masterpiece, or something written by Miles Davis, amazing American blue jazz artist. Yes, Kind of Blue, Miles Davis's breakout album from 1954 or 55, I can't remember which, is unquestionably a jazz masterpiece. Okay, but if you ask Miles Davis, famous American jazz musician, was Kind of Blue a jazz masterpiece, he'd likely say yes, because he had a big ego, but he'd also likely point you to his later 1960s work, In a Silent Way, which is a different kind of masterpiece. So even the author, who likely, or the musician, for example, in our case, who likely felt it was a masterpiece, would critique it. And about the reason we have academia here is to ask the big whys. Stating something's perfect, stating something's a masterpiece, actually is really an ineffective and lazy way to express yourself as students and as young academicians. We want you to be part of the academy. That's why you're here. So again, you can come to my class and you can become part of the academy, or you could not, and then you won't be. I don't care if you're doing business or structural engineering. It doesn't matter. You're a human being. You have a mind and you can share your ideas. So consequently, when I hear someone say something's a masterpiece without a critique, you can say a piece has problems. You can critique a piece. In fact, I'd like you to critique a piece. This was a problem. They didn't do this clearly. Although one might say this was a masterpiece of logos or ethos or pathos, still the writer or the musician or whatever we're studying, the filmmaker, had some problems, right? So being skeptical is key. Critiquing is key, and that's why we're in university, and that's what we want you to do. We want to teach you to think on your own. Okay, so let's go back into the piece again, and filler, just to be clear, filler will get you not a good grade. When I see a lot of filler, I roll my eyes and say, okay, I know what the student is trying to do. Don't use too long, examples of too long. Okay, well, this is similar, I guess, really, yeah, to the overwriting. Even somewhat to your, in page 250, it was used to refute the claim that we became more moral than our ancestors, and logic behind this is that we still admire war heroes. Till this very moment, and the superheroes have no means of displacing war heroes, and the fact that we still look, okay, says it all. Okay, nothing says it all. You need to tell us what exactly is happening. There's a lot of generalizations. When you see things that it gets filler, things that are too long, it's just generalizations, and that becomes a problem. So yeah, it's. We see here was used, so we see here again the passive voice. This is just some sloppy writing, and I'm not going to let you guys get away with the sloppy writing. This needs to be broken up. I think there's some interesting ideas expressed here, but this is probably at least this is really 3 sentences, I think. So again, tight, sharp, clear ideas express those so that we your readers can feel it. Tight, sharp, subject, verb, perhaps object. Keep the sentences small right now. Walk, don't run, and let us know exactly what you're trying to say. You know, you guys are smart enough. I see how you guys express yourselves in my class. You guys definitely are intelligent enough and you're creative enough to do this. Okay. We have one or two more examples, I think, in this. Some of us are trying to express, especially in our first essays in the 1010 rhetoric class. A lot of you are trying to express what you want to say with logos, pathos, and ethos. The way I'm asking you to do it for my classes is, you know, especially for your first essay. Now, this may not apply to my 1020 class. You guys are going to be doing something different. So the 1020 stuff you guys can forget. The 1010 core class of Heroes, Demons, you guys can forget this part of it. Although honestly, the way your instructor in your rhetoric class is going to be teaching this may be different. I'll let that instructor tell you some details. But this is definitely is applicable to my 1010 rhetoric course. You know, I need you to give me the main idea of how each one of these is being used per paragraph, and then I need the examples and I need your critique of the examples, and then. And I gave an example here, which you guys can look at. Now, this, by the way, has some problematic parts of this. I'm not saying this is a perfect writing. This example is well written overall, but has problems. There's problems in this example of filler. There's at times not a clear-cut thing, a clear-cut idea to this writing. However, it is well written overall, and it can be used as somewhat of a guide. I wouldn't say this is the only guide. The writer needs to do some more work on this. But this is a start. Okay, I think that's about it. There may be one or two more things left on this sheet that I wanted to show you guys. Someone asked me, how can we discuss pathos in academic text? Well, here, and this is actually a very good example. I ask you to dig deeper. I ask you to look a little bit deeper. So let's bring this up here. We can bring this whole section up. I think this is it. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a read here. This leaves us to our final rhetorical appeal, which is pathos. Pathos is an appeal to the reader's emotion. Emotions probably is what you'd want there. An attempt by the author to evoke certain feelings of whomever is reading. Okay. Somehow this appeal was absent, or at least not very obvious in our article. Maybe this was done deliberately by the author, by the authors. All right, as they may think that logic and evidence are way more persuasive. Here's a filler, or here's actually a modifier that's it's too much slang and it doesn't add anything, so I would take that out. Are more persuasive, or at least professional than trying to play on emotions. However, after further reading of the article, one can sense the emotional appeal. One cannot say superheroes without mentioning the comic books that had a significant role in shaping our childhood. Yeah, because we're talking plural. The fact that Scully and Kuzban used examples of Superman and Batman trigger some emotions of nostalgia in his audience, making a path for their ideas to connect with the reader. Okay, pathos was also found on, it's probably what you want, on page 249. The last paragraph, when he said, it's tempting to think that we have become increasingly moral. This kind of sentence targets our emotions. All right, and so that's a good example of how you can use the project of, or the how you can use pathos in discussing an academic text. Okay, well, guys, look, I enjoyed this process with you here. I think I hope you guys are learning. please come and see me in my office hours between 5 and 6:30 on Sundays and Wednesdays. If those times don't work for you, we can try to set office hours, or not office hours, but we can set up maybe a private meeting at another time, either on Skype or in my office when I'm in my office. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say to you today about your writing. And good luck. Work hard, and we've got another about six or so more weeks left, 6-7 weeks left. So we've got some more time to improve our writing. Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.